second half kickoff. The Falcons will kick to Dallas, leading 17-14. Greg Davis will do the kicking for Atlanta, and back to receive for the Cowboys, 42, Darryl Clack. Top of your screen, 83, Kelvin Martin at the bottom. It has to be, as we said at the beginning of the broadcast, a pretty confident Atlanta team, and that's showing itself as they came back from a 14-point deficit in the first half. Clack from a yard deep in the end zone. Hit and dropped at about the 19-yard line. Number 80, Gary Wilkins, for his second special teams tackle of the day. And Steve Pelluer comes back to go to work, and the Boo Birds have been on him, and not just this week, Kenny.
Well, he's got his work cut out for him, not only with the Atlanta Falcons, but he's got his work cut out. He needs to play a little bit more consistent, not turn the ball over the way he's been turning it over. Get the hometown crowd on your side. They need to be on your side, backing him up. There's only one way to do that. Move the chains and score points.
When you're following in the footsteps that he is, it's understandable you're going to come under some pressure. But his numbers compare quite nicely with those of Danny White and Roger Staubach at the similar stage of their career.
The only stat that doesn't compare favorably is a turnovers. He's thrown a fairly high interception ratio.
Herschel Walker for a couple. And Rick Bryan again in on the tackle, helped out by Tony Casillas.
Rick Bryan having a nice day. But that only happens when you get a little help from your friends. Other people string things out, take up blockers where you can move to the ball. That's a young defensive unit out there that's going to get better and better.
The whole team is young.
Andre Bruce had his best game last week against San Francisco, and probably because he's been there a little bit longer now. He understands what he's doing. When you understand, you can play reckless.
Little movement up front. Flags fly and the whistles blow.
False start, 61, offense.
Nate Newton.
Big Nate Newton is the guilty party.
There's Nate. Needs his own area code.
It's one of those on one of those seafood diets.
Yeah, what is it?
If you see food, you eat it.
Seafood, you eat it?
14:07, 14:06 to play here in the third quarter. And a second and 13. Pelluer throws to the far side, and he's got Michael Irvin out of bounds, just short of the first down marker.
Nice play, nice throw. That's the player that they have to get more involved in their offense, is Michael Irvin. He's a big play type player. He's a possession type receiver, good all-around player. But like I said, they need to get him more involved in the offense.
We were standing and watching Steve Pelluer throw the football yesterday, and we saw this.
That is somewhat of an unusual grip. Most quarterbacks will grab the ball or grip the ball with the laces on the first knuckle toward the fingernail. That's a little bit of an unusual grip, but Terry Bradshaw had an unusual grip. He put his index finger near the point of the ball, and he's got a handful of Super Bowl rings.
Yes, he does. Here's the pitch for Herschel Walker. Outside, and will not get the first down yardage. 58, Jesse Tuggle coming up with a tremendous play.
Well, that's what you have to do to Herschel Walker, is you got to string things out, force him to sidelines, don't let him turn that corner. That's what the defense does right now. They've done their part, make them turn the ball over. They're going to get good field position out of this, 30, 40-yard line, then the offense takes over. Team situation.
Fired up Atlanta unit we're looking at. They needed a half yard for a first down, Dallas did, and they lost 2 on the play. Lou Barnes back for Mike Saxon's punt. And we'll see if Atlanta goes after Saxon.
They're back out. Terrible kick.
Awful kick with a fairly decent roll and out of bounds between the 30 and 35-yard line. At the 33 is where Atlanta will put it in play. First and 10, 12:59 to play in the third quarter. The Falcons with the football and a 3-point lead.
Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders Fitness and Dance Academy offers something for everyone. Aerobics, jazz, ballet, tap, go-team.
All right.
And private lessons for males and females of all ages. Call 556-9999.
I guess we can forget about that first receiving touchdown, huh?
Yeah, that's fine. You bet.
For the 9th consecutive year, Frito-Lay and the
Area
Cowboys
code.
are teaming up for a better Dallas than the
No, Zips letters, Areas is bigger. Okay. Okie dokie.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can get a free Cowboys calendar with a purchase of Game Day magazine or with any Eckerd's photo processing or Kodak film purchase at participating area Eckerd store.
.59 to play third quarter, and as the Atlanta offense goes back to work, it will do so without two key performers for the rest of the afternoon. Gerald Riggs with a left knee strain, Sylvester Stamps with a right hamstring pull will not be back in action today.
Fortunately enough, the Atlanta team does have some depth, although their second team people are awfully young, but John Settle has come in and done a good job, and Primus has played very well, and it's a deep team, but all their depth is extremely young.
#1 rushing offense in the NFL. It remains to be seen whether or not it suffers today with the loss of Riggs. Two tight ends in for Atlanta, and it's Wisenhunt in motion. And Miller with a little play action going long down the middle and has his man. 82, Stacey Bailey, and again they pick on Robert Williams.
Well, if they get in the man-to-man coverage, and you hate to keep saying it, but it is the same thing over and over. They're playing their wide people in a man-to-man type coverage. When you get that, you just get the good pass protection. That's where it all starts. He gets that. The play fake holds the safeties. There's the play fake to 44, John Settle. And then Miller just airs it out. I mean, he just throws a rainbow out there. Look where the ball is thrown. The ball is way out in front of the defender and way out in front of the receiver, where the only person that can catch that ball would be the offensive receiver. Very well placed.
Stacey Bailey is having a terrific day. 3 receptions, 151 yards, and a touchdown.
Airmail.
Here's the pitch for Settle. Settle turns the corner and is bumped out of bounds at about the 10. Eugene Lockhart with the tackle.
Here you're playing middle linebacker, and here's what you got to deal with. Just a pitch to Settle, and they string it out behind Frelick 79, Brett Miller 62. They get it, bounces it outside, and makes a nice play before you see 56. Eugene Lockhart knocks him out.
Gain of 5, call it 2nd and 5 at the Dallas 10.
John Settle has stepped in and played extremely well. We had this team earlier in the year, and he stepped in and played well. And when you get a guy like Riggs who goes down, it's nice to have him.
I think it's 2nd and 4, and it's Settle. Settle pulls his way down close to first down yardage.
Ernie's a little bit concerned. How do you stop this team? They hit us with a big one. We're playing a man-to-man, and our guys aren't covering their guys, and they run the ball with Settle, and they're getting 4 or 5 yards a pop on their running downs. I mean, we just have to play better. We've got to cover people, and we've got to stop the run.
And we don't mean to be picking on cornerback number 23, Robert Williams, but that's exactly what Chris Miller's doing.
Well, you get someone who is not a starter originally. He replaced Ron Francis, and that's the guy you go at. If you're a quarterback, you look out there, you see who the young guys are, the inexperienced people, and you try to put your people on those people.
3rd and 2 from the 7. I formation. Settle is the deep back, and the fake is to him. Lots of time for Miller, and he throws into the end zone. Wisenhunt can't get there. Chris Miller appeared to have all day to throw the football.
Well, he can drink coffee back there in this particular situation. He goes back there and he gets an awful lot of time, and he starts directing traffic. Watch him here. He's going to direct traffic. Move over there. Get over there. Get over there, and then he finally throws the ball. And throws the ball in a good place. Only one guy can catch it. If it's incomplete, you don't risk the interception or knock yourself out of field goal range.
And Wisenhunt, the intended receiver, 24 yards out. Greg Davis will try the field goal. And out of Steve Dill's hold, it is good. The Falcons up their lead. It is 20-14, Atlanta. Greg Davis' second field goal of the afternoon, a 24-yarder, has boosted the Atlanta lead now to 20-14 with 11:07 to play in the third quarter. Back deep for the Cowboys. Number 42, Darryl Clack at the top of your screen, 83, Kelvin Martin at the bottom. And not a bad recovery for these young Falcons after being down 14-0 in the first quarter.
Kind of quiet in here right now.
This will be Clack at the 4. The 20, the 30, the 40, and to the 42-yard line, maybe the 43 before he is brought down.
Well, maybe that's what you have to have. Somebody has to do something on your team to stir things up, to get the crowd behind you. They were quiet as a church mouse until they get this nice return right here, get some good field position. You see it right here. You see he's going to break in. He's going to give them a 40 or a 50-yard line spot for the ball, and that's what the offense has to have. Somebody has to step front, make a big play, and get your team back in it.
Gene Lang, reserve running back, number 33, the man who brought him down for the Falcons, and Pelluer now with excellent field position. And the Cowboys have not done much since early in the game. Here comes Herschel Walker.
Rick Bryan again. He's all over the field, making an awful lot of plays.
Gain of 6 for Walker out toward midfield. As you said, Rick Bryan with one of his many tackles so far this afternoon.
Not your greatest pass rusher, but a good, solid defensive end. Not known to be a great pass rusher, but as I said, solid, plays the run well, adequate pass rusher. Good player.
Herschel Walker has already carried the ball 18 times today. Here's number 19. That's first down yardage. Number 64, center Tom Rafferty, left a shoe behind on the play. Steve Pelluer, I thought very quiet, very reserved young man when we talked to him on Friday.
Talked to him yesterday, or talked to him Friday, as you say, and really didn't get an awful lot out of him. Nice young man, easy to talk to, but really didn't give us an awful lot of information. Maybe that's the Tom Landry philosophy, but he's under a lot of pressure here, and as we said earlier, you follow someone like Roger Staubach, who is just a legend in Texas. You get compared to him, you got your work cut out.
First down at the 45-yard line, and Pelluer will throw. Under pressure, gets hit hard as he lets it go, and it falls inside the 5, incomplete, intended for Michael Irvin.
Boy, he took a shot.
Pelluer did take a lick.
Pelluer's pass intended for Michael Irvin.
Well, here's an end zone replay of it, and I guess there are better ways to spend a Sunday afternoon. This is not one of them. There's the linebackers popping him right into numbers. He's lucky to get the ball away. Maybe lucky we didn't get an interference call here, but watch this. Watch this. There's a good way to spend it. Bang.
Joel Williams.
That'll make you sleep on your side of the bed.
With a full head of steam. Pelluer now 6 for 10 throwing on the day. 2nd and 10. Pelluer back at it, throws out here, and a fine catch by Walker.
And nice touch on the ball.
Joel Williams out on the coverage. Not much you can do about this one, though.
There's a low angle shot of it. Watch the touch on the ball, and it's also a nice catch by Herschel Walker. He gives him a look downfield, and then just touches the ball right over the receiver. Nice catch by Herschel Walker. Talked with him yesterday, and he wears gloves. He said he's not wearing them now, but he wears gloves in practice because he says it makes him concentrate more to catch the ball. Well, a little technique that he uses to help his receiving.
And how many sit-ups a day does he do?
Said he did 3,500. I only get to about 3,000, you know, but he says he does 3,500.
Timmy Newsom.
He does his in 20 minutes. I did mine over my 15-year career.
Newsom straight ahead for a couple. Clock continues to run. We're down to 9:05 to play here in the third quarter.
Important that they do something with the ball here. Crowd's not with them, and they're behind right now 20-14. The offense has struggled other than their one long sustained drive they had in the first half. Important set of downs right here.
You saw 68 Crawford Kerr trying to walk off a little nick on the sideline, and the offensive line is where the Cowboys cannot afford injuries.
Been banged up an awful lot. They brought in Bob White as a backup center. Got in other people to bring in because of the depth situation. Offensive line been nicked up.
Bob White is a backup center. He is now in for Crawford Kerr at right guard. And Steve Pelluer wants a timeout. Does not sit well with the crowd. 8:31 to play. Third quarter. Cowboys with the football in Atlanta territory and trailing by 6.
Oh! I think they're going to throw the ball. Yeah. Yeah, let's get him. Yeah, let's take a shot at that.
They haven't thrown to Campsite.
That the tight end, Campsite would be good. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Let's get to 84.
I mean, I think you know, they've been covering Irvin pretty tight.
And down in here is a good spot. Tight, that's right.
All right. Kerr is back. Peter, I'm proud of you. 8:31 to play in the third, and not one cheerleader shot yet.
I'm a little disappointed.
Cowboys have moved to the Falcon 35, and the fans, understandably, with a little bit more to cheer about now as they try to urge the Cowboys on to the end zone. Greg Gumbel along with Ken Stabler, Irving, Texas. Doubleheader action still to come this afternoon here on CBS. The Rams against the Giants, or San Francisco against the Seattle Seahawks.
Two good games. Los Angeles using that 5 linebacker thing, causing a lot of headaches for people.
First and 10 from the 35. And Pelluer will put it up. Pelluer goes deep for Herschel Walker.
Nice coverage.
34, your friend Robert Moore on the cover.
Robert Moore said I look like Bob Barker. Yeah, come on down. He better be paying attention to number 34 out there as he was just then. We talked to this young man yesterday, and he's all fired up, and they really think that they can win. They've got a young set of defensive backs back there, and Bobby Butler, Robert Moore, Brett Clark, Scott Case, and they're not the most talented group in the league, but they're enthusiastic.
Got a 47-yard return of an interception for a touchdown against the 49ers last week. Intercepted you yesterday, didn't he?
I pitched him my championship ring and
picked it right off.
Picked it right off.
Here's Walker. Walker, a gain of 5, looks like maybe even 6. We'll call it a gain of 5, and it'll be 3rd and 5 to go for first down. Rick Bryan again in on tackle
76, Mike Gann, 77.
for Atlanta.
Comes their situation substitution people coming in now.
3rd down 5 from the 30.
Timmy Newsome goes out. Cosby goes out. In comes Everett Gay, one of their wide receivers.
Tom Landry just loves the number of young wide receivers he has on his team. 4 wide receivers in the game for the Cowboys on 3rd and 5. Pelluer out of the shotgun. Has time, throws incomplete, overthrows his intended receiver, and it was 88 Michael Irvin. And Bobby Butler was right with him.
Maybe just as well he overthrew the ball. Looks like Bobby Butler was really had good coverage on him. Here he is from the shotgun. They bring one of their linebackers, number 54. The ball is overthrown, but maybe just as well. Bobby Butler right there. You get somebody that's covered that close, you risk a chance of the ball being deflected or bouncing off a shoulder pad or a hand up in the air and deflected.
And Roger Ruzek, who made his first appearance of the season last week against the Giants and hit 1 out of 2 field goals, will now attempt one from 48 yards out. Steve Pelluer with the hold. And this one is going to be short and wide. And the Cowboys don't win themselves any fans. No change on the scoreboard, and Tom Landry is looking for some answers with 7:29 to play in the third quarter. Atlanta still holds a 20-14 lead. Part of the crowd here in Texas Stadium don't sell out the way they used to. Greg Gumbel along with Ken Stabler. And one of the things that's been in the papers is the possible sale of the team, and one possible sale to Robert Tisch will not happen.
Yeah, Mr. Tisch wanted a team, if he was going to purchase a team, something a little closer to his home base in New York. Even speculated buying the Jets, I hear.
James Primus, a gain of 1. Talking with Tex Schramm down on the field before the game, though, it just doesn't mean that there aren't any potential buyers. That's just one possibility that is gone away, but there are numerous bids in for the team, and it's being considered. On the left of Tom Landry there is actor David Keith, whose movie Heartbreak Hotel is being widely discussed.
Pretty high-powered telephone man, huh?
Yes, he is. Talk about your payroll. Miller over the middle, got a man, and he's loose in the secondary.
Boy, you have to like the way he got rid of the ball, read the blitz, saw a lot of pressure coming. You have to like the way this young man gets rid of the ball and where the ball was placed. The ball was right in the numbers. Here he sees everybody coming from the outside. There comes Cobb, releases the ball extremely quick, right on time, and a nice tackle by the safety, number 24, Michael Downs, to save a big touchdown. There's the pressure put on by Cobb, and the young man just has a great presence on the field to know when to get rid of it. He throws a long ball extremely well, and he throws a short ball. He's playing extremely good. A lot of confidence.
Stacey Bailey continues to enjoy a fine afternoon, his best yet as a pro. Wisenhunt in motion on first down. Straight ahead, John Settle. And in for the hit is Bill Bates after a gain of 3.
John Settle on the carry.
Stacey Bailey's having a career all in one afternoon here in Irving.
They're covering him man for man, and they're taking advantage of it.
Gain of 4 yards. Will be second down, 6.
Bailey is in his 7th year out of San Jose State. Got a 42-inch vertical leap.
You have to like the way the Atlanta Falcons play on offense. They spread the ball around. Stacey Bailey having a big day. Floyd Dixon has made some nice plays. Riggs has carried the ball a nice job. Settle is gaining yards. They spread the ball around.
On 2nd and 7, Miller flares out to the side, incomplete, in and out of the hands of Primus.
Well, he needs to make that pass just a little easier to catch. They do a play fake in the middle and hold the linebackers. Then they try to slip that ball out to the running back with some linemen in front of him. But you got to take a little bit off of that and make it a little bit easier to catch.
Cowboys Herschel Walker is on sale today at Stadium Souvenir Stand.
Chris Miller just bought a new home in Atlanta. We asked him about the speculation of Atlanta Falcons team moving to Jacksonville, Florida, possibly, and he likes Atlanta. Just bought a new home there.
They like it there just fine.
You bet.
4 wide receivers on 3rd and 7 for the Falcons. And Miller got a blitz and throws it down the field. Complete and dropped by Stacey Bailey. And Robert Williams was right with his man that time.
With him good, except he had his back turned. He got him turned, and the ball was thrown up there. Probably should have been called by Stacey Bailey. Here you see it right here. He gets Robert Williams turned, running stride for stride with him, has his back turned. The only person that knows where the ball is Stacey Bailey. A little blur drill, the ball goes right through his arms.
Greg Davis will be back to kick it. Or make it Rick Donnelly.
Kelvin Martin deep for receive.
And Kelvin Martin deep for Dallas. Fair catch call at the 20. And that's where the Cowboys will put it in play after a 29-yard kick by Donnelly. 5:05 to play, third quarter. Atlanta leads it 20-14. Hear about early on and very little since. Atlanta leads Dallas 20-14 with about 5 minutes to play here in the third quarter. And remind you, next Saturday afternoon, college football action. The LSU Fighting Tigers against the Florida Gators. The Tigers ride the arm of Tommy Hudson, their Heisman hopeful at quarterback, and the Gators on the heels of sophomore running sensation Emmitt Smith. 2:30 Eastern, Saturday here on CBS. Back to live action. Here comes Herschel Walker. Gain of about 1 before he's shoved out. And that reliance on Herschel Walker now has the Atlanta defense really keying on him.
Well, you know, we talked to Marion Campbell yesterday, and we said, what do you feel about Herschel Walker? How do you stop Herschel Walker? And he says the same thing that most everybody says. You don't stop Herschel Walker. You just try to keep him from making the big play, from busting 175 yards, catching a short pass, turn it into a long touchdown. And they've done that today. They've contained him.
Herschel arrived today the second leading rusher in the NFL behind Eric Dickerson. He's carried 21 times, 85 yards so far. 2nd and 9. And Pelluer to throw. Outside, he's got Ray Alexander. And Alexander wrapped up at about the 38-yard line. That's a first down. And a gain of 17.
From behind the quarterback, you see it right here. It's a little play pass right there. There's a play pass to Herschel Walker. Use him as a decoy. There you see number 87, Ray Alexander. Bobby Butler, number 23 for the Falcons, giving him an awful lot of room. Just take that.
They had high hopes for Ray Alexander last year, but he broke a wrist in training camp and spent the entire year on injured reserve.
One of the reasons that they could let Mike Renfro go. Mike Renfro been an outstanding receiver here for many, many years. I played with him down in Houston. A quality guy and a good receiver.
Walker. Gain of about 3, and it'll make it 2nd and 7 as we are under 3.5 minutes to play now here in the third quarter. Mike Gann, Tony Casillas. In fact, that entire front line of the Atlanta Falcons doing a good job today.
They have done a good job. They played extremely steady. They haven't had to apply very much pressure to Pelluer because he really hasn't done anything to dictate that. They haven't had to get to him. Their game has been to stop Herschel Walker, to string him out, and they've done that very successfully.
Tom Landry said you got to be fair and make note of the fact that everybody is learning right along with Pelluer on this team.
Exactly. They're pretty settled on their players. They just need for them to play better, to grow together.
Pelluer with a good fake up the middle and now starts to run the football. And Joel Williams is there to bring him down as he crossed over the 40-yard line. From around the NFL, the battle for Ohio being won by the Bengals. Houston rebounding from a thrashing at the hands of the Jets last week. The Jets in Detroit tied at 10 in the third.
Does Tom Landry kick around the idea of going with the more experience, getting Danny White in the game possibly? What do you think?
See, look at Danny White's career numbers.
Not bad numbers.
However, Tom Landry is committed to Pelluer, is he not?
I think so.
3rd and 6. Pelluer will throw it outside. Good pass, but Bobby Butler was there to defend on Michael Irvin.
Atlanta defense doing their job. Bobby Butler been at left corner for a while for Atlanta, playing very well. Nice job on Michael Irvin that time.
Mike Saxon.
It's Mike Saxon who will get the kick away from about his own 30-yard line. And Lou Barnes is deep for Atlanta. No pressure and a great kick by Saxon. Barnes at his 12.
Good coverage.
Will go nowhere.
Good coverage. Good kick, good coverage.
47-yard punt by Saxon, a 5-yard return, and the hitting machine, Eugene Lockhart, down there to make the tackle. And Miller will go back to work with 1:57 to play here in the third.
Working on a pretty good day here. The one interception resulted in points. The tipped ball by He had Too Tall Jones. Danny Noonan scored early in the first quarter. Other than that, he played solid football. Made the big plays when he's had to. The long passes to Floyd Dixon.
Dixon and Bailey are Miller's wide receivers as they go 1st and 10 from the 17. And he'll put it up. And under a rush, he throws over the middle. And he will be ruled down. 95, Mark Whalen, the second-year man from UCLA, was in on Miller.
Well, 95, Mark Whalen, you see it right here. Gives the crowd something to yell for. He's working on All-Pro Bill Fralick and just beats him to the outside. Gets on top of Miller. Miller tries to do the smart thing to avoid the sack and throw the ball away, but the end of the grasp rule gets him.
When you beat Bill Fralick, you've done something.
Bill Fralick, last 2 or 3 years, been All-Pro, one of the leaders of the ball club, kind of one of the elder statesmen, and still only been in the league 4 or 5 years.
2nd and 19 now. 4 wide receivers for Atlanta. 6 defensive backs for the Cowboys. And the give up the middle. Here's Settle. Settle looking for running room and doesn't find any. And it's the Cowboy defense which has now ignited the home folks.
The handoff was to number 40.
Well, he started the whole thing right there. He got penetration and slowed Settle's momentum down and gave the opportunity for Michael Downs to come, from Gary Cobb to come, and some help from his friends to try to keep them back here, make them punt the ball from deep in their own territory, and give your offensive set some good field position to work.
Too Tall playing in his 196th game today. Randy White is 197th. Meanwhile, 3rd and 18. Miller rolls to his left in the end zone, under pressure and throws, and that'll be a safety.
Miller looks like he's hurt. It doesn't look very good either. Looks like he got sandwiched between Too Tall or sandwiched by Randy White. It doesn't look very good. Gosh, you hate to see that.
Miller downing the ball in the end zone, and that's a safety.
Well, you hate to see what happens to the young man, but he's trying to make something happen. It's a design sprint out to his left. He's got great ability to run around and buy time. But there's number 54 that's got him pinned, and here comes some help. I can't get the number right there. It's number 73. It's Danny Noonan, and he gets sandwiched between Noonan and some other people, and looks like he gets a knee. Another angle of it. There's Noonan giving chase behind him. Here's Randy White's going to contain. Right there. He gets hit. It looks like he folds his left knee up under him. Gosh, you hope it's not serious.
They are still working on Chris Miller in the end zone. Meanwhile, number 8, Steve Dills on the sideline as you look at Randy White. There's Dills. Intentionally grounding the football in the end zone gives the other side 2 points. So the Cowboys now pull to within 4, and they will get the ball back on the kick. And as Miller hobbles off the field, we expect to see Steve Dills, the 10-year veteran from Stanford, coming in on the next offensive series.
Well, he looks like he's in an awful lot of pain. He's played very well today. The thing I'm sure that he will learn out of this is, you have a 20-16 lead, and instead of taking a chance back in your own end zone back there, throw the ball away and let your team, let your punter punt the ball out of there. Your defense has been playing pretty well today, and don't take that kind of chance.
3 key performers now that the Falcons have lost this afternoon. First it was Sylvester Stamps, and then Gerald Riggs. And now the youngest starting quarterback in the NFL, Chris Miller. Free kick from the 20-yard line. Rick Donnelly has the football, and back is number 83, Kelvin Martin. Chance for the Cowboys to make some headway now. Martin at the 27. Turns it upfield across the 35 to about the 37, maybe the 38-yard line. Michael Haynes, number 81, made the tackle for the Falcons, and here comes Pelluer.
Well, that tight play that the defense made, you get Randy White and Danny Noonan and Gary Cobb, they make that type of play, and it changes the whole complexion of the football game. Momentum swings to the Cowboys side. Crowd's back involved in it. They get good field position for the offense, and one play turns the entire thing their way.
And as they work on Chris Miller on the sideline, you hope that it's nothing more than an ankle sprain. First down for Dallas, Herschel Walker.
Atlanta's defense has really done a good job of stopping Herschel Walker on the early downs, on the run downs when they're trying to create the short yardage situations, and they're doing a good job of containing him.
Clock continues to run. That looks to be the final play of the third quarter. Gain of 4 on the play. So when we come back, it'll be 2nd and 6 for the Cowboys. But there's the gun that ends the third quarter. The score, Atlanta 20, Dallas 16. We will pause now for this.
Just filing it, using it later.
Good. Okay. Super.
Yeah.
All right.
Better than me.
Well, get it right, Alan. Which is it? I bet it's neither one now. Heard a thing from the sheep today. Nobody heard a word about the sheep today. Back at Texas Stadium for the start of the fourth quarter. Greg Gumbel along with Ken Stabler. 20-16 Cowboys. They have the football at the 40. And Pelluer has Alexander. Alexander breaking free across the 40, inside the 40 to the 38. 21-yard pickup, and Pelluer getting his right arm in gear.
Well, it all starts right there with the pass protection, and there you see it. You see Rafferty 64 giving him the time. Then Alexander does a lot of this on his own. He beats Case number 25, who everybody has picked on an awful lot. He finally gets back in to make the play with Bobby Butler coming over to help. But Scott Case is the guy in the secondary that everybody has tried to pick on, although he burned Montana with an interception last week.
Robert Moore also in on the tackle. First down at the 38. Doug Cosby in motion, and the pitch for Walker. Penalty marker down, and we'll wait for the call. Referee Bob McElwee says holding against Dallas. Not too many of those yellow flags flying today.
It's been a fairly solidly played game as far as the penalty situation is concerned. The turnovers have been held to somewhat of a minimum, and it's been, I think both teams played pretty solid.
Holding, 78, offense, first down.
That's the rookie out of Boston College, Dave Wydell, who was taught by Ed Too Tall Jones.
Yeah, he said working against Ed Jones every day in practice really helped him. He said Ed Jones showed him every move that he had, his inside move, his outside move, his over-the-top move, and then when he ran out of moves, he said he just ran over him. But I guess if you worked in front of Ed Jones all day, every day,
That'll happen.
You betcha you'd learn a lot in a hurry.
It'll be a 1st and 20 for the Cowboys now. The ball back at the Atlanta 48. And Pelluer looking downfield under pressure and overthrows Doug Cosby. In applying some of the pressure, who else? Rick Bryant. Just a little while ago, you saw the injury to Chris Miller, and Chris was wheeled off the field. He is headed for x-rays of the wrist, which they hope, of the ankle, which they hope is nothing more than a sprain.
Well, it has to be a little bit better than a knee situation with the ankle, certainly.
2nd and 20 for the Cowboys now. And Herschel Walker split at the bottom of your screen as a wide receiver.
Draws a lot of attention to it.
A lot of time for Pelluer, and Pelluer will pull it down and run with it, and he's brought down.
Well, the crowd's all over him, but in defense of him, you look down the field, and we've got a great view of it up here. Gets a lot of attention, is drawn by Herschel Walker, and everybody seems to be covered. He really didn't have a lot to work with, and they're putting, you see Gann, number 76, putting a good rush on. He gives a look. There's Tony Casillas, 75, forcing him out of the pocket. And in all defense of the young quarterback, there really wasn't any place to throw the ball. He's doing what he had to do.
What a great job by Casillas and by Rick Bryan. 3rd and 20 at the 48 now. Casillas is out of the lineup in 94. Charles Martin replaces him in the middle of the Atlanta defense. David Crudup, Charles Dimry, extra defensive backs in, and 4 wide receivers for the Cowboys on 3rd and 20. Penalty marker flies. And this looks like it'll be a delay of game. Pelluer didn't get the play off in time. Not winning himself any additional fans.
Well, it's an important series for them. They got themselves back in the game and got the crowd back on their side with the safety on Miller. Got the momentum back on their side of the ball. Then they come up here and their offensive tackle, Wydell, gets a penalty that forces them back. Pelluer takes too long in the huddle, forces them back. The kind of mistakes offensively is the reason that they are 1 and 2. Their defense has played well enough to be 3 and 0.
Meanwhile, Andre Bruce comes out of the lineup, and big Greg Brown, number 98, goes in. 8th-year man out of Kansas State. 3rd and 25. And on the screen, here is Walker. Walker runs over a teammate as he crosses the 45 down to about the 43. The Cowboys will have to kick it away after a gain of 9.
They set up a middle screen. Watch the center and watch the 2 guards, the team in white. They let the people get penetration. Walker slips right in behind them, right there, number 34, and then he tries to do something with the ball on his own. It's a set-up, middle screen, but stopped short.
It's number 4, Mike Saxon, in to kick. 85, Lou Barnes, standing at his own 10. No rush at all on Saxon. He sends this one sky high. This one will reach the end zone. Into and out of the end zone. First down, it'll be Steve Dills at quarterback when the Falcons put it in play. 11:44 to play in the 4th quarter. It's Atlanta by 4. Texas, Greg Gumbel along with Ken Stabler. 11:44 to play here in the 4th quarter. Atlanta leading the Dallas Cowboys 20-16. And you've got to give this Atlanta team credit, as we said, Ken, down 14-0 in the 1st quarter. Danny Noonan returning a tipped pass for a touchdown. Also added a safety. So look at the yardage. Atlanta had a big lead at halftime. Cowboys have been slowly but surely cutting into that.
You have to like what the defense for Atlanta has done, though. They've contained Herschel Walker.
Quarterback Steve Dills, 10th year out of Stanford, and the pitch to John Settle. Gain of 2 on the play, make it 2nd and 8. You joined us late. Dills replacing the injured Chris Miller, who went out late in the 3rd quarter with an ankle sprain. At least the Falcons hope it's an ankle sprain. He's undergoing x-rays right now.
It's good to have an experienced backup quarterback such as Steve Dills to come in. Usually the experienced player can come to a new team and pick up the offense a little bit quicker than, say, a younger player. Once threw 62 passes in a game down in Tampa.
Wisenhunt in motion. Dills play action and throws an incomplete intended for Wisenhunt. Miller just one of numerous injuries today. Gerald Riggs gone for the day. A left knee strain. Stamps Sylvester Stamps a right hamstring pull, and here's Chris Miller's injury.
Now, there's the reason we're seeing Steve Dills. He's trying to make something happen out of his own end zone, and Danny Noonan, number 73, giving Chase 77 Jeff Coat, and Noonan and Randy White, number 54, sandwich him, and gets his left ankle turned up under him, and hopefully it's not serious.
4 wide receivers for the Falcons, 6 defensive backs for the Cowboys. Dills under the gun, and down he goes. 59 is Gary Cobb. That's 5 quarterback sacks for the Cowboys.
Typical Cowboy defense, play man-to-man and try to get a big pass rush. There you see Too Tall applying pressure. Then here comes Darth Vader with the black helmet on, putting all the pressure on Steve Dills, and that's the typical Ernie Stautner type philosophy. Big push by your defensive lineman, man-to-man in the secondary.
Rick Donnelly standing in the end zone will kick it away, and Kelvin Martin is deep for the Cowboys. And a good kick. Looks like he might have lost that in the sun. It rolls along midfield and bounces out of bounds. That's where the Cowboys will put it in play when we come back. 37-yard kick, 10:36 to play in the 4th. Atlanta leads it by 4.
Reminder once again, ladies and gentlemen, that tickets to the future home game, with the exception of the Washington Redskin game, are on sale today at the stadium ticket booth near gate 10 outside sections 35 and 36, and are available Monday through Saturday at the Cowboys ticket office in Valley Ranch.
Welcome back to Irving, Texas. Doubleheader action coming up after this game, and then next Sunday on CBS, more doubleheader action. Starts with the NFL today, and then the Giants against the Washington Redskins, and then game 2, Detroit at San Francisco, Minnesota at Miami. That's all next Sunday here on CBS Sports. First down. And play action. Pelluer throws, and he's got a man wide open, Michael Irvin.
That's the play that Pelluer has to make. You get the good field position, you get the ball up around your 50, although there's a penalty. We'll see who it's on, but this is the play that he has to make to get down in there in scoring territory. They've had field position the last 2 series. Good field position.
78 offense. First down.
Number 78 is Dave Weidel.
Well, I guess Too Tall taught him so well that he has to hold, but the offense, this is where they have to get it done, and they haven't. The last series of downs, good field position, nothing. This time they get good field position. Here you see it on the left-hand side of your screen, number 78. Weidel puts a bear hug on him right there, just clamps and starts dancing with him and makes a nice tackle on number 76. And that's a no-no.
Mike Gann. 23-yard gainer wiped out by the penalty. So make it 1st and 20 for the Cowboys now at their own 40.5-yard line.
Get this kind of field position, you got to come up with something. You got to do something here.
First down 20.
Walker and Newsom behind Pelluer, and 2 wide receivers to the top of your screen. Pelluer deep. Cosby's got it.
Nice job by Doug Cosby of knowing where the first down marker was and getting past the first down marker for the first down. Here's a low angle of it. This time Weidel does a better job on number 76, Mike Gann. You see it right there. Like we say, good job of knowing where the first down marker was, and a nice low sliding catch by Doug Cosby. Hasn't really been involved that much in the offense. That's one of the things that the Cowboys need to do, is get more people involved in it.
10-year veteran, knowing, as you said, Kenny, where that first down marker was. They needed 20. He got 21. First down from the 38. Walker. And Walker is stood up at about the 36-yard line. Tony Casillas was like a rock of granite in the middle of the line. Pickup of 3 as we begin to wind down toward 9 minutes to play here in the 4th quarter. Tom Landry looks on. We asked him if it was still fun for him. He says if it wasn't, he wouldn't have signed a new 3-year contract last summer.
Said he still enjoys the preparing of the game, getting ready for the other team. There's some other aspects of it that he didn't like as much, some of the other things that surround football these days.
Herschel Walker is a wide receiver over the middle for Newsom. Newsom with running room across the 15, down to about the 12, maybe the 11-yard line. Scott Case with the tackle. We'll call it a gain of 24.
Well, it looks like they catch Atlanta in a zone-type defense, and they do. There's number 59, Rady. He's not covering anybody specifically. He's dropping back to a zone. When he drops back, there's Timmy Newsom that gets the ball right in front. Big, tall, rangy receiver, 225 pounds, and when he gets up ahead of steam, guys like Bobby Butler, number 23 there, have some problems. Cowboys
now first down at the Atlanta 11. Newsom and Walker in the backfield, and here comes Herschel. Penalty marker flies as Walker bangs his way down to the 5. We'll check the flag, and it's going to be a hold against Dallas.
That's the area they've had their problems, Greg, against the Giants, their problems. Here's a penalty.
Holding, number 84, offense, first down.
Referee Bob McElwee calling the hold on Doug Cosby.
And it's the area they've had their problems, whether it was broken assignments, a penalty, interceptions. They get down in scoring territory, they always seem to cause themselves problems.
So that backs the Cowboys up now to the 21. Thornton Chandler is in as a second tight end, and you see what the penalties have done for Dallas so far today. Some of them at critical times. First and 20 from the 21. Pelluer under the gun, and down he goes. Rick Bryan, number 77.
Well, it's really good when your defense can get to the quarterback, especially from a 3-4, without using the linebackers. They do it here with just their defensive end. There's Gann, there's number 77, Rick Bryan, and they're doing that with a 3-man rush. And that says something for your defense, or either it says something for your offensive line.
And it is something that does not happen too often to Steve Pelluer, because coming into this game, the Cowboys led the league in fewest number of sacks allowed with 2. Second and 26 from the shotgun. Pelluer over the middle, has his man. 83 is Kelvin Martin. Pickup of 12 on the play should make it 3rd and 14.
Picking on Scott Case again, and that's been the situation in their games. Everybody goes at the young Scott Case, and no exception here.
We talked about the youth in that Dallas receiving corps. Ray Alexander, the oldest one at age 26. Those are some young legs out there for Pelluer to look for. 3rd and 14, 6 defensive backs in for the Atlanta Falcons. And out of the shotgun, Pelluer has Herschel Walker. Walker across the 10 and down to about the 8.
Real nice tackle by Robert Moore in the open field on Herschel Walker.
Now that forces a field goal situation.
And without this tackle, you're in trouble. This man will probably score. This is probably a tackle that saves a touchdown and will give the Cowboys the lead. There, Herschel Walker gets the ball. And watch this tackle. Good, sure tackle, wraps Walker up, forces him to go for the field goal.
Just what Robert Moore said he didn't want to have to do, but when the time came, he didn't do a bad job. Roger Ruzek, with Pelluer holding, will attempt a 26-yarder. And that kick is perfect by Ruzek. 5:28 to play, 4th quarter, and the Cowboys tighten it up. It's Atlanta 20 and Dallas 19. I don't know if Tom would be that daring. Good. we start with quarterback Chris Miller, the Atlanta Falcons, and the good news for the Falcons is that X-rays are negative, and that is a sprain, nothing more than that.
Those toes belong to a sore ankle. I'm sure that he's happy his ankle as opposed to a knee. That's what really scares you when you see a young player like that go down, or any player go down like that.
It was officially a 25-yard field goal by Ruzek, who will now kick it away.
Offensively right here, Atlanta's got to control the ball. There's 5 minutes, 28 seconds left. They got a 1-point lead. They've got to get some first downs, keep the clock rolling.
This is Michael Haynes inside his 5. Running room out over the 20 to the 22 or 23-yard line before number 52, Sean Scott, brings him down for Dallas. And here comes Steve Dills. I think it's an interesting situation. It's not the way things used to be, Kenny, where if your veteran quarterback went down, then you were faced with the rookie in these pressure situations. Things seem to be the reverse now with all the young starting quarterbacks in the league and the veterans who are there backing them up by design.
Absolutely, it is by design. Young developing quarterbacks and a smart older guy behind them that they can lean on, talk to, and somebody that can come in and play when the young guy goes down.
Dills to throw. And Dills over the middle. Knocked down by Bill Bates. He was looking for Stacey Bailey.
Well, Dills will be real happy that he threw that one as high as he did. If the trajectory of the ball were any lower, he'd have been on defense all of a sudden because Bill Bates was zoomed in on it. But they've got, they're throwing the ball on first down. They're throwing a long pass like that. I've got a little bit of problem with that. Maybe throw something where you're sure you're going to complete the ball. Something short where it maintains the clock, where the clock keeps running. The clock is on their side right now. They need to use it.
Bailey and Dixon to the near side, and the pitch goes the other way. Primus. And Primus with very little yardage. Michael Downs, number 26, coming up from his safety position to make the tackle. Atlanta looking for another win, and back-to-back wins are something that haven't come easily for them. You have to go all the way back to 1986 when they came in here to beat the Cowboys 37-35, then went on to Tampa and beat the Bucs by 3.
With 3 different quarterbacks.
That's right.
Now 4.
Third at 10.
If they win.
From the 22. Dills under pressure and goes down. The ball has been blown dead. The Cowboys scramble for a ball that is not officially loose. 59, Gary Cobb was in all over Steve Dills. 6th quarterback sack of the day for a tenacious Dallas defense.
Well, that thing's only got 13 pounds of air in it, but it sure draws a crowd. Watch this. There comes Gary Cobb, number 59, and here comes some other people. They bring a safety. That's Bates, number 40, coming from the outside. No chance for Steve Dills.
Dills was counting on a block from John Settle that he didn't get. And Donnelly to kick. And this will be an important punt. Good kick by Donnelly. Kelvin Martin at his 40. And tripped up as he crosses the 45 out to about the 47. David Crudup, number 30, for the tackle. A 45-yard kick by Donnelly and a 7-yard return. And once again, Steve Pelluer gets some good field position to work with 4 minutes, 12 seconds to play.
Can't ask for better field position. You get the ball at midfield. There's plenty of time. 4 minutes, 12 seconds. Field goal puts you up by 2. You would think that the Cowboys would be in pretty good shape here, but they really haven't done an awful lot with that field position in the last 2 or 3 series.
Good football game here, and another one still to come in your area. Either the Rams and the Giants or the Niners and the Seahawks. Pelluer will throw it. Alexander has a first down. Gain of 13, and Pelluer beginning to find the range.
Well, he's getting an awful lot of room out there. Ray Alexander's getting an awful lot of room, and it's Scott Case again. He's been the victim of an awful lot of work today, and rightfully so. He's just giving them so much room that they're going to take that. Ray Alexander makes a nice catch for the first down. Just take that if he's going to give you that much room. Work it down in there for the field goal.
Talked about Scott Case being thrown at. Scott Case comes to the sideline, and he's been replaced by Charles Dimmery. You see, the Cowboys are beginning to rack up the yardage here in the second half. First down, Pelluer fakes the pitch and the toss. Steve Folsom, number 85. A third string tight end was the receiver, and there's a penalty marker down. It looks like ineligible receiver downfield. Here's Bob McElwee's call.
Ineligible downfield on a forward pass, number 68. First down.
Crawford Kerr, the victim. Play like that takes a little while to develop an offensive lineman. They've got to stand in there, and then they want to get down and help. They know the ball's going to be thrown, the ball's going to be caught. They'd like to get downfield and help with the downfield, the blocking, and he just leaves a little bit soon. Yeah, here's a shot of exactly what we're talking about, and it takes a little while to develop because you've got a fake toss. See, there's a fake toss to Herschel Walker, and it takes time for that to develop.
Crawford Kerr coming through the line. First and 20 now. Pelluer throws and got Alexander again. Alexander inside the 35 to about the 32.
Well, they flip it over this time and go to work on Bobby Butler, and he plays him no different than Case does. He gives him an awful lot of room, and they're just going to stand up and pop that and take it. He gets a good pass protection behind Tim Newsom right there, delivers the ball, and now look where Bobby Butler is. Where's Bobby? There he is. He's playing way off. Just take it.
Close enough to measure, and that's what they'll do for a Dallas first down. So after picking on the far side of the field and Scott Case, Pelluer comes back to the near side. Dimry is a rookie out of Nevada, Las Vegas, but certainly no stranger. He played the entire second half against the 49ers last week. As you look at scores from around the National Football League. First down. Here comes Walker. And Walker met near the line of scrimmage, gain of about 2. John Rady 29, Joel Williams, or Rady 59, and Joel Williams 54 in on the tackle as we head toward the 2-minute warning. Herschel Walker, 25 carries, 96 yards as we hit 2 minutes to play. In regulation time, 20-19, the Cowboys looking for field goal range. Two minutes to play, Texas Stadium. Greg Gumbel along with Ken Stabler. Atlanta with a 1-point lead, and Dallas looking to possibly position Roger Ruzek for what might be a game-winning field goal. Dallas with 2 of its 3 timeouts remaining. The Falcons with all 3.
Be interesting to see the play selection down here. They've been ridiculed in the line for using Herschel Walker only as a decoy down in this particular part of the field, and whether or not they let the quarterback throw it, we'll see right here.
Walker and Newsom are behind Pelluer, and Urban is in motion. Pelluer for Newsom, who dropped the football. If you're wondering about Roger Ruzek, the longest he has ever kicked a field goal is 49 yards. His long this year is 41. He kicked a 41-yarder last week and missed a 28-yarder.
Well, certainly not a lot from this position or this part of the field. There you see him warming up over there. Certainly they'd like to get the ball down in closer.
Ruzek in his second year out of Weber State, signed on as a free agent last year.
You have to think, too, that you'd like to use a little bit of the clock before you kick the field goal to take as much time away from the Falcons offense as you can.
Third down. And out of the shotgun, Pelluer under a rush, throws toward the corner, and there's Alexander. Alexander fights his way down, and touchdown!
Great individual effort on both parts.
He beat the rookie cornerback, Charles Dimry.
Well, you have to like the position that Pelluer puts the ball. It throws the ball extremely outside where the receiver can adjust to it, and he does it under great pressure. There comes Moore, the strong safety from the outside. The ball is thrown way outside, but there's Alexander makes the play, and watch this effort. Great effort to pull away for the touchdown, beating Charles Dimry.
A minute 48 to play, and Alexander gets the kudos on the sideline from David Keith and the rest of the Cowboys. Pelluer will hold. And the piece of the ball is hit, and it still goes through. It looked like number 41, Tim Gordon, got a piece of it.
Let's see if we can see who got it. Where he comes from, inside or outside. Looks like 41 to the left part of your screen, comes right between the tackle gap. It is number 41, Tim Gordon. Gets a piece of it, but not enough.
In fact, Gordon turned around, saw that it was good, and couldn't believe it. And Alexander still celebrating on the sideline.
Good core of young receivers for the Dallas Cowboys. There's two of them right there. Michael Irvin, number 88. Ray Alexander, 87.
And Everett Gay, number 82. Let's look at Alexander once again working on Dimry.
Put a little wrinkle on him, and he gets his foot, and then a nice effort here to pull away for the touchdown. Young, enthusiastic team. Evidence of it right here.
And back upfield, Steve Pelluer, after taking the hit from Robert Moore, signals touchdown.
If anybody needs it, he does.
You know, we asked Marion Campbell whether or not he'd be doing much blitzing, and he says he doesn't do that. Yet he sent the safety, Robert Moore, who would have normally been helping out Charles Dimry on that play. He sent Moore after Pelluer.
The gamble that you take when you bring safeties is you have to play the man-to-man coverage, and you can give up the big plays. Marion Campbell's defensive philosophy is quite the opposite of Dallas. He plays more of a control-type defense, combination coverages. Dallas blitzes much more.
Minute 48 to play. Ruzek will kick. This is Haynes in the end zone, and he'll run it out. Stumbling across the 20 to about the 22 before he is tackled. 53, Garth Jacks, a reserve linebacker, down on the play for Dallas.
Well, he's played well in the second half. He's come back after a somewhat slow start in the first half. You see his numbers there, and if anybody needs a confidence builder, it's Steve Pelluer.
Meanwhile, for the Falcons, a field goal doesn't help, and the veteran Steve Dills has 79 yards facing him and a minute 43 to play. And Dallas has owned the football here in the fourth quarter.
One of the hardest times to have to throw the ball when everybody in the stadium knows you're going to do it.
Four wide receivers. Dills over the middle. And he's got Aubrey Matthews. Matthews out over the 40 to about the 42.
Well, they've got all their timeouts, and they've got some time to do some things. Get up, get the play call, conserve as much time as you can. I would think if the ball remains inbounds with the clock running, we might see a timeout this time.
Out of the backfield, Settle.
Get out of bounds.
Stepping over the 50 and out of bounds in Dallas territory at the 48-yard line, and that's close to another first down.
Well, this team doesn't think things are over just yet. They've got time to do some things. They've got timeouts left to do them with, and they've got the clock stopped, and they've got good field position to work.
Minute 15 to play. Here's a look again at Dills, who had lots of time to throw and picked out Settle.
Picks out the right guy, dumps the ball off. There's the pressure from Danny Noonan, number 73. John Settle, number 44, has presence enough to know what the time situation is and gets out of bounds.
First down Atlanta at the Dallas 48. Dills again outside, and this one goes by.
They are just putting so much pressure on Dills, it looks like a jailbreak up there. Jim Jeffcoat's coming, Randy White's coming, and they're just putting an awful lot of pressure on the young man. The offensive linemen need to do a little something to help him. Watch this. Here they come. He gets his back foot planted, and there's Jeffcoat all over the top of him, and he just gets hammered around. They've got to give him time to do some things.
Too Tall, meanwhile, is just dismissing everyone in a red jersey in front of him. Second and 10. 71 seconds to play. Dills with time to the sideline, in and out of the hands of Stacey Bailey. And he had two receivers in the same location.
Looked like the distribution of the receivers wasn't quite what it needs to be. They were awfully close together. Here's what we're talking about. Look at the line of fire right here. The ball is coming. Was it coming to this receiver on the 40, or is it going to the receiver on about the 32 or 33-yard line? Much too close together. Bad distribution.
First downs won't do the Falcons any good unless they maintain possession of the football. 3rd and 10. And on the draw, Settle with room to run. 35 down to the 32-yard line.
Need to get a timeout.
And Dills does just that. Gain of 17 for John Settle and an excellent call.
It was an excellent call, Greg. They've come in with an extremely strong pass rush. There's Jeff Coat rushing outside, and they come inside of him with a draw to John Settle. Breaks the tackle right there by number 59, Gary Cobb. And they get down in where they can get the ball in to try some things down here. Throw the ball in the end zone, possibly.
You saw 38, Ron Francis still had his eyes on the receiver. Clock stopped with 58 seconds to play. I remind you, if it's Sunday, it must be 60 minutes. And if it's 60 minutes, everybody's favorite news magazine. 60 minutes tonight on CBS. We have the Cowboys versus the Falcons here. It's followed by Dukakis versus Bush.
No.
Then summary and analysis.
The presidents. Okay.
And then comes
Maida. She wrote,
and that's all coming up tonight on CBS. We still have 58 ticks of the clock here in the 4th quarter. Cowboys lead at 26-20. Atlanta with the ball at the Dallas 31.
2 timeouts to work with.
4 wide receivers into the game for Atlanta. Big rush, and the pass out here for John Settle, almost picked off by Jim Jeffcoat.
Nice read by Jeffcoat. He sees the back floating out there and put a little pressure on the situation. He's put a lot of pressure on the quarterback today. As good a pass rusher as the Cowboys have right there. He had Too Tall Jones. He reads this real well. He sees the back. See, he goes out to his right. He sees the back floating out. He follows him out there. Almost gets does get a hand on it. Breaks the play up.
Collegiate teammate of Gerald Riggs at Arizona State. 2nd and 10. 55 seconds to play. On the draw again, it's Settle. Settle over the 20, loses the football, and recovered by Atlanta.
And maybe still get the first down, possibly.
And timeout is called, stopping the clock with 43 seconds to go. So the Falcons used their 2nd timeout. This was near disaster for Atlanta.
Same draw they ran before. Outside pressure by there's Randy White, number 54. He breaks a tackle on Danny Noonan. Breaks a tackle on Gary Cobb. Somebody knocks the ball loose. I'm not sure who, and they're lucky to get the ball back right there.
Looked like Jamie Dukes, number 64.
Same play right here. There he breaks a tackle by Noonan. There's Cobb, number 59, breaks his tackle. And the ball is knocked loose. It's hard to see the number, but like we said, they're lucky to get the ball back in that particular area of the field.
Looked like Gary Cobb, who's played another whale of a game for a 2nd straight week for the Cowboys, knocked the ball loose, and it looked to be Jamie Dukes, who is starting at left guard in place of the injured John Scully with the recovery. So here's what we have. Ball at the 21-yard line of the Cowboys. Atlanta with a 3rd and 1. They've got 2 problems here. They've got to make themselves a first down, and they've got 1 timeout remaining. And they can't settle for a field goal. This drive began way back at their own 21-yard line. And Steve Dills has done a good job so far here in relief of Chris Miller. 3rd and 1 from the 21.
The Cowboys got an awful lot of people up on the line of scrimmage. You see them on the outside. There's the 2 safeties, and they're both coming. And they get their first down, but now they got to worry about the clock.
Settle straight ahead for a first down at about the 19-yard line. We are down to a half minute to play. Dills over the middle, has a man at the 10. That's Floyd Dixon. And Dills uses his last timeout.
Well, the thing you have to think about right here, you have to be concerned with completing the ball that's not in the end zone, because you don't know if you'll have enough time to get everybody reset and get another playoff. The ball needs to be thrown into the end zone.
Atlanta now out of timeouts, and 21 seconds to go, 10 yards. Greg Davis can only hope he will have a chance for an extra point. A field goal does the Falcons no good. I think after the game, win or lose, Marion Campbell will say that he likes the way his team has performed for a second straight week on the road.
I agree, and especially fighting back like this late in the game when you know you have to go the length of the field. Field goal will not help you. Have to have a touchdown, and they put themselves in a position to score.
At this exact moment, Atlanta and Dallas, each with 324 yards in total offense. 21 seconds to play. John Settle, the only back behind Dills. 4 wide receivers. He throws to the far side and he bounces it in.
Maybe just as well. Maybe just as well.
Aubrey Matthews may not have been able to get out of bounds.
That's exactly right. There was a defender all over him. If he's tackled inbounds, can you get up and get off another play? 17 seconds, you've got to rally everybody. Maybe just as well. Line up, start over again.
Seconds to play. Third down. Dill to the end zone. Oh, out of the hands of Aubrey Matthews.
Nice job by Steve Dills. Got to come up with that play. You've got to make that catch. He gets the pass protection. You see Jeff Coat putting the pressure on. There's Radliff, their center. Randy White getting his hands up. Watch this. There's the ball. That ball has to be caught.
Ron Francis, one of the extra defensive backs in the lineup on the coverage. Fourth down. 13 seconds to play, and it comes down to this for Atlanta. Dills under pressure is sacked. The loose football is picked up and dropped. And Bill Bates is trying to track it down, and he finally does inside the 40-yard line.
Dills didn't have a chance.
I believe one of the people to get a lot of credit will be 77, Jim Jeffcoat.
Well, there's Bates coming from the outside. They get Jeffcoat. Bates, a strong safety, coming. There's Michael Downs, a weak safety. They bring both safeties. Jeffcoat gets to him, and then it's a hot potato. But they had their chance to win. Aubrey Matthews needs to come up with that catch. It should have never come down to this particular play you're watching right here. Atlanta had their chance.
Bill Bates, I'm sure, will be questioned about his soccer playing ability as he booted that one downfield for a number of yards. And with 1 tick of the clock left.
Oh, it's the old, my favorite play right here. Oh, win the game play. I love this one.
Steve Pelluer will pull a Stabler.
There it is, the old right knee down.
Valiant effort on both sides, but it was Dallas eking out the win. 26-20, the final score for Ken Stabler. I'm Greg Gumbel saying so long from Texas Stadium. And CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League will continue after these words from your local station. Doing?
I'm fine, and you?
All right, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Ken Stabler's up here with me.
Nice game, Ray.
Thank you, Ken.
Hang with us for a bit.
Okay.
Along with Ken Stabler, and at the other end of the camera is number 87, Ray Alexander. 29-yard touchdown catch from Steve Pelluer for what turns out to be the game-winning score. Kind of a strange play, Ray, in that Charles Dimmery looked like he had you for a moment, but you were able to break away.
Yes, he played tough inside technique down on the goal line, and coaches saw that the 7 route was open. So we went to the 7, went to the corner route, and Steve got a blitz, and he put it up quick, and when I turned around, it was in the air, so I had to come back to the ball and do what I could with it. And luckily, we came out with 6.
Ray, Ken Stabler, it looked like you guys were doing a lot of business on Scott Case today. Was that by design? Did you see something in the films that led you to him?
Well, both him and Butler, Ken, were playing off deep to the inside. That was their tendency, so we decided to go to the weak side of the field and the strong side of the field and run the quick hitches and the quick, the 3 routes and the hooks.
You had yourself a pretty good day today. 6 catches, 107 yards, and of course the big touchdown. There's been an awful lot of criticism of Steve Pelluer, but he certainly came up big, particularly in the second half today.
Steve's a great quarterback. You can't ask any more from a quarterback. We're a young team. We're all trying together, and we're trying to pull out some wins.
Ray, congratulations on a good game. Keep it up.
Thank you, Ken.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Craig.
Against the Dallas Cowboys, Tom Landry having a tough season, 1-2, looking to rebound against the Falcons, but the Falcons always play well at Dallas. Too Tall Jones tips Miller's pass, the 73rd time he's done that in his career. Danny Noonan grabs it and goes 17 yards for his first NFL touchdown. 14-0 Cowboys still in the first. Chris Miller goes deep to Stacey Bailey. You'll see the flag fly, but forget it. 67 yards. They love this kid's poise. It's hauled in on the touchdown. Atlanta's back in it. It's 14-7, and Chris Miller is having his second consecutive great day with much thanks to Stacey Bailey. Game tough on the Falcons. We told you about it. Sylvester Stamps pulls a hamstring. He was gone for the day. Gerald Riggs, he sprains his knee. He also sat out the rest of the game. But the Falcons still managed to score on this drive. Chris Miller, the second-year quarterback, he may as well be a rookie. He played about 3 games last year after the strike and a holdout, and this one is a 12-yard pass from Miller to Floyd Dixon to tie the game at 14. The Falcons are up 20-14. Watch Miller's left ankle as he's chased here by Danny Noonan and Randy White. As he's going down there, it twists and turns. You can see the pain. 20-16 Atlanta on the safety. Worse than that, though, the Falcons lose Miller with the ankle injury. However, the x-rays were negative, and hopefully it's just a sprain. Late in the fourth, 20-19 Atlanta. Steve Pelluer beats the blitz to Ray Alexander, fights his way into the end zone. Charles Dimmery has him by the leg, but he just pulls his way out of it. 26-20. The Cowboys have the victory. And Dallas moves to 2-2 on the season. And everyone, and welcome to Zenith Monday Night Matchup. I'm John Saunders. Tonight it's the Dallas Cowboys and the New Orleans Saints. The Saints a year ago finished 12-3 with the second-best record in the National Football League. They also made it to the playoffs for the first time in franchise history. The Dallas Cowboys, on the other hand, struggled last year, finishing below 500. But this year's 2-2 start has them tied for the early lead in the very tough NFC East division. Joined by Sam Ratigliano and Ali Sherman, it could be a long night for the Cowboys against what's been assembled as a very tough New Orleans team.
Tough, and I think, John, they present the toughest matchup that the Cowboys are going to face this year. And the reason is because of the way Jim Mora and his staff have put the Saints together. I believe it's the best way to go. They've recognized the abilities of their players, given them things that work to their strengths, not beyond their limitations, and in turn, they have made these